Hello, this is a special birthday video for Sonny McKinley, and I gather it's your birthday today. You're 10 on the 11th of June, so wishing you a very, very happy birthday. And I've also noticed that people born around this time in June are very characterful and have a lot of very strong interests and often have very sort of bright and unusual lives, and they're also quite eccentric. And I'm born on the 19th of June, which is also in that same time period. So I think you've probably got a very bright and interesting life ahead of you. And the reason I'm making this video is because I've been digging up fossil bones of reptiles from the Jurassic and the Cretaceous era for the last 40 years, and I mostly do it along the West Dorset coast where I am at the moment, and also the East Dorset coast, and I've also dug up some dinosaurs in Australia as well. And I've literally dug up tons and tons of fossilised bones of these ancient creatures. And the one I'm best known for is the discovery of a giant pliosaur skull, which I found in 2022, April the 5th it was, I think, which then later became the subject of the David Attenborough programme, Attenborough and the Giant Sea Monster. So that's probably my most spectacular discovery to date, though the second most spectacular discovery was a nearly complete ichthyosaur skeleton, which is a species new to science. And most of my finds, especially the important ones, I gift to a museum in Kimmeridge called the Etches Collection. And it's a lovely museum, and it's run by my very good friend Steve Etches, who, now this is interesting because I gather you want to be a paleontologist. Steve started off as a plumber. He left school with no qualifications, and he worked all his working life as a plumber, but on the side he became very knowledgeable about the fossils of the Kimmeridgian, which is the era in the Jurassic about 153 to 157 million years ago. And he's since managed to get funding for his own museum, and he's now a world authority on the fossils of the Kimmeridgian. And he's been given an honorary doctorate, and he's also got an MBE, and he's written so many papers on the different discoveries. And he was the one who worked on getting the rest of the skull of the giant pliosaur out. And I'm just mentioning him because it shows there are quite a few routes to paleontology. One route certainly is to go to university and do it the academic way, and then do lots of field work. So make sure you get lots of experience in the field. That's the most important thing, because that's where you really learn. So I'm surrounded by a few of my fossils. Nearly everything, as I said, of importance I gift to the Etches Collection and to the nation, and I do that so other people can enjoy them, and they go on for generations and generations, inspiring people. But here's a replica, and this is a very small scale replica of the giant pliosaur skull which I discovered in 2022. The original, which is in the Etches Collection, is 6 foot long. So this is only about 20 or 25 inches long. So it's a massive thing. It's as big as I am, because I'm 6 foot long. So, and it's an amazing thing. It's the most complete pliosaur skull ever discovered. And it's gone in the Guinness Book of Records as the most complete pliosaur skull. So when you see, you must go to the museum. When you see it, it's just breathtaking, the scale of it. Because here, for instance, is just a little section of a bit of a pliosaur's jaw, Now I don't know if you can see in the picture, there's the roots where the teeth were sticking out, and this would just this little bit would be somewhere just along here in his bottom jaw. So that's just, I'm just giving you an idea of the scale of the original. See? And here's a big tooth, and this is a pliosaur tooth. That again's giving you an idea of the scale of the pliosaur's teeth. So that's the original of that is my most important find of my lifetime, and I don't think I'll ever find anything bigger than that. And the rest of the skeleton is still in the cliff, and Steve is hoping to be able to raise the funds required to do the rest of the excavation. I wrote to David Attenborough a couple of weeks ago and asked him if he'd give his name to backing the next part of the dig, as that would help with the fundraising, but I haven't heard anything back from him yet. But we're still quite hopeful about that at some point, because the whole skeleton will be 30 to 40 foot long. And it was such an exciting day when I discovered it. I was just walking along, oddly enough, looking for pliosaurs, and I rounded the headland, and there it was, just sitting sort of glistening in the morning sun. And that's sort of how life happens. You're sort of going through life, and then you suddenly get these amazing surprises just sort of dumped at your feet. And so as you go on through life, be sort of aware of that. It never turns out quite how you think it's going to turn out. It's full of surprises, but you learn to trust the way it goes. And here's a vertebra from a pliosaur. So that's probably a dorsal vertebra, so it's probably somewhere down sort of the middle of its back. When they get up into the neck, the cervical vertebrae tend to be a bit flatter, and they're huge. The biggest cervical one I found was about 9 inches wide. So if you imagine the size of a beast with a 9-inch diameter vertebra. So that's a pliosaur vert. Now you've got the spine comes up, and you've got the place where the ribs come out, and then the neural cord goes sort of through there, and that carries on all the impulses from the pliosaur's brain down to its different limbs and organs and things. Let's see what else we've got. And this is the distal end of the femur of a plesiosaurus. And as you know, plesiosaurs are a bit like the Loch Ness monster, with great big long necks and huge flippers. And that one I excavated probably about a year and a half ago. The tide was coming in. They had very limited time to get it out, so I had to work very quickly. And then I was almost cut off round this headland, so I had to wade through the rough sea with this heavy bone in my rucksack, through all the surf, which was coming right up to sort of my chest, and my heart was beating very fast because it was quite a scary moment. But that's all part of the fun of it, is you're sort of outdoors having this amazing adventure. And it's so much better than having a career where you're just sitting in an office all day. And here's another distal end of a plesiosaur's femur, and I found this one earlier this year. It was just lying on the beach, and the way you find them differs, because sometimes you walk along the beach and sometimes you just find them lying in the sand or in the gravel, and that's like magic. And at other times there's been a cliff fall, and all this rubble has come down, all this clay and rocks and boulders, and the sea comes in, and gradually over a period of months it washes all the mud away, and then you start finding these wonderful bones in the mud just sort of revealed, or you'll see a little bit peeping out of the mud. And that is so exciting, because it's like you're doing a jigsaw on a great big scale and you're slowly putting the beast together. This one here is another plesiosaur, I think, and that one you can't really see it, but I collected that in multiple pieces as it was coming out, and over months I sort of managed to fit it all together. And that's part of its coracoid, which is part of its pectoral girdle, so it's sort of the platform from which its flippers are able to swim with. And this one's quite interesting. That's a section of ichthyosaur ribs, and when I found my great big ichthyosaur, which is known as Brittany, it's virtually the whole skeleton and it's all articulated, but often I find these little blocks which are just a section of the skeleton, and I clean the clay off with tools, and they just make nice things to have around, because not everyone can have whole skeletons in their houses. So to have little partial bits articulated are really nice things to find. See what else. Another really interesting thing is this bone here, and I found a lot of these. This again is the distal end of a plesiosaurus's femur, but it's got tooth marks in it, and they, to me, you probably can't see it in the camera, but they narrow down, and that to me looks like the snout of a crocodile. So a crocodile, probably after the beast died and was on the seabed, has started scavenging the bones, and that's quite common to see, and it's most exciting because it often tells a story about how the beast died. So you'll find a pliosaur or a plesiosaur or an ichthyosaur, and they've got these great big teeth marks in them, and from the size of the teeth marks you can work out what beast was it that killed it 153 million years ago. So going back to finding them, after the cliff falls, the other really exciting thing is finding a display of bones embedded in the bedrock. Often the sea will wash away the shingle of a sand, and suddenly you'll just see these bones, sometimes articulated, sometimes scattered, embedded in the rock. And if they're sort of loosely scattered, then you'll chisel out each bone very carefully. Or if they're quite close together, then you can gradually work on getting the whole blocks of the articulated bones out. But you need quite a lot of equipment and friends to do that, because they're so very, very heavy. And then another way I find bones is when they're sticking out of a cliff. So the cliff gets worn away by the sea. Each year it goes back so many inches or feet, and suddenly you'll be walking along, especially after a rough sea, and you'll see these bones sticking out of the cliff. And what I do then is hammer away, normally going in a bit above them and a bit below, and you make a sort of letterbox. But you have to be very, very careful because of falling rocks coming down from above. And I've had a lot of very narrow escapes where boulders have sort of whizzed past me, but I sort of figured that it wasn't yet my time, so I don't worry about that too much. But do take careful if you ever do that. Normally you sort of wear a hard hat, but even a hard hat wouldn't be much help against a boulder. And also, if you're digging on private land, you need the permission of the landowner. Mostly on the beaches in England, you're free to pick up and take what you find, which is really nice. So that's a very brief overview, I think. I've got so many things I could show you, like that's another little section of scatter of ichthyosaur bones, ichthyosaur vertebra, and that was one I was working at down near Kimmeridge. I got quite a lot of bones from it. And let's have a look at this one. It's always nice to find things which are articulated. It's very dusty. And this is a series of articulated ichthyosaur bones. and I found these on exactly the same day that I found the giant sea monster. So I found part of this before I found the sea monster, then I went off and discovered the sea monster, then I came back and found the other half of this. It still needs work doing on them to reveal the vertebra, but it's part of the spinal column of an ichthyosaur, which was in the cliff quite near Kimmeridge. So that's a brief overview. So again, I hope you have a very happy birthday, and I've heard that you're a very kind person, and kindness and happiness is the most important things in life. If you can go through life, one, following your passions or following your bliss, so if you can go on to become a paleontologist and it's what you really love, then you'll have a very happy life. And if during that life you're very kind to people, then your life will be even happier, because being kind to other people, it not only makes them happy, but it makes you very happy as well. So that's really my advice to you. And at the moment you're 10 today, and as you get older, time speeds up. So although you might think your dad is not very old at 51, and I'm probably fairly ancient, I'll be 71 in June. As you get older, time goes quicker and quicker, so life goes very quickly. So really make sure that you enjoy every minute of it, because that's so important. And I think you're going to have a really exciting and interesting life. So thank you very much and happy birthday.